It is Mary from Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and thank you for joining me once again. Let me kind of get situated here. Give you guys a me for the first time, welcome. For those of you that join me regularly, welcome back. Every week I try, sorry about that. There we go. Every week I try to go live here on my YouTube channel to discuss some fun and interesting things that we have, either some frequently asked questions of the week, or today is something specific and something super awesome, and that is Ty Roselle. Before we get to the meat and potatoes of the video, I wanted to kind of answer a couple questions I got over the week, and then share with you some information I have as well. So in the description section of this video, you will find lots of different information. Sandra Buck says, cold front coming to Central Texas, gave my Roselle a pep talk. Yes, so I'm gonna talk about that too, because we are headed for a freeze. I believe it's going to be a low of 29 on Saturday. So that's why I wanted to talk about Ty Roselle before it's lost. So in the description section of this video, hey David, you will find links to different things that I discussed throughout the video. Number one I discuss all the time is my comprehensive planting guide. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up on our video. Another link we have down there is a sign up. Hey, Inga. Inga's joining us from Europe. She's enjoying herself today, hopefully. So you'll also find my tutorial on how to grow these awesome Ty Roselle. Hey, Cindy, thanks for joining me. If I miss anyone, I apologize. It's not on purpose. I am going live and trying to discuss all this awesome information, and I don't always see comments as they come up. If I missed your question, please send me an email to mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. Another link down in the description section is also a sign up link if you want to get our emails. So coming up, I've got 2023 announcement. It is the number 2 of our 2-part series for our new announcement arrival. New arrivals announcement. And that'll be sent out this weekend, of course, because it's going to be a little cold and I won't be out in the garden. So let's get to Ty Roselle. What the heck is Ty Roselle? If you haven't been following me on Facebook, you may not have seen all the information that I posted recently. Ty Roselle is also called Jamaican sorrel, Jamaican hibiscus, Florida cranberry. So it goes by a couple different names. It's been grown in Florida at least since the 1800s, and I've been growing it for quite a while. I've grown it in. A honeybee is coming to join me. Please don't. Thank you. Oh, sorry. The honeybee thinks I'm a flower, apparently. I'm in a bright yellow Mary's Heirloom Seeds t-shirt, apparently. So sorry about that. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody's comments while I was dodging the bee. So one of the things that is asked about Ty Roselle is, how do I get it to flower? Well, I'm going to discuss that in a little bit. I want to get from starting it to caring for it, and then I'll answer that question. The number 2 is, how do you use it? And I'm going to discuss that as well after I tell you how to grow it. So Ty Roselle is an annual. It can be a tender perennial if you live in zones 10 and 11. So if you get no frost, pretty much. I know we lived in zone 10. Like I said, I've grown Ty Roselle in Texas. I'm in Texas. I'm growing it. I've grown it in California, and I've grown it in Florida. It grew the longest, obviously, in Florida because it has such a long growing season there, which was pretty awesome. Now, if you are growing Ty Roselle, you're going to need to give it some space. It can grow 6 feet tall. This, I've got 3 plants behind me. You can see, actually it might be 4 plants. They are over 5 feet tall. I'm sitting on a bucket next to my raised bed. So these things grow way higher than actually you can see in this picture, but I will show you a little bit. They form these beautiful flowers. Actually, I pulled one so you can see it. It's a hibiscus. Just it grows similar to an okra. The flowers look very similar to an okra, which of course is part of the hibiscus family as well. So it is beautiful, it is sprawling, and it takes up a little bit of space, and it takes a little bit of time. So let's go into starting your seeds from the beginning. Now, because the seeds of Thai Roselle can be fairly hard, it can benefit from scarification. Now, you might be thinking, what the heck is scarification? That is essentially when you rough up the outer shell of the seed. You can use, I've heard of people nicking it with a razor blade, but that just seems like a little too much work for me, and I like all my digits, so I want to make sure that I don't slice my finger trying to slice little teeny seeds. So the easiest way to do it is if you have a nail file, or if you have just a piece of sandpaper, you can scuff up the seed on the outside, the outer shell, to kind of loosen it up. That's called scarification. That's the simplest way of doing it. It literally just involves weakening of the outer shell because that shell is pretty hard. Now, seeds, if you have a shorter growing season, seeds can be sown 4 to 8 weeks indoors in warm soil. So if you are growing it in a cold area like your garage in the wintertime, you're probably going to want to give it a little bit of a heat, like a heat mat. That's really important. And I've had a lot of questions about heat mats and things like that. Some of the heat mats will only get you 10 degrees higher than your ambient temperature. So if your garage is like 40 degrees, your heat mat might not do the job to keep your soil warm. So these need warm soil. It needs about 70 to 80 degrees in the soil for optimal germination for the ultimate tea plant. And I'm going to get to how many uses you can actually get out of a Thai Roselle plant. Now, while I'm just chatting with you, you guys are welcome to give me questions. Give me some like feedback on if you've got any questions specifically, or if you've grown it yourself. Like Inga's giving me a little feedback here. She says, I just stick mine in a Ziploc bag with some paper towels and they sprout easily. Now mine sprout pretty well as well. I tend to soak the seeds in water for 24 hours in most like hard shelled seeds, and then I go ahead and plant. Germination can take about 10 to 14 days, so you might need a little more patience than say like a bean seed, which tends to germinate in like 3 to 5 days. It needs full sun. So if you're growing this indoors, you will need a heat, not just a heat mat, but also light. Super important. It is fantastic for full sun. If you've got an area in your garden, especially if you live in a hot place like Texas, California, Florida, it grows amazing in Florida, by the way. Full sun is awesome. It thrives in full sun and humidity. So like it's humid out here. I'm like overheating, even though it's like what, November? We had it over 80 degrees, I believe, today, and it is humid, even though Saturday, like I said, our low is going to be 28. So Alan says, is it related to a Confederate rosebush cotton rose mallow? I'm not sure. That's a great question. You have me stumped on that one. I will check for you, and I will get back and comment below with your answer. It is in the hibiscus family. So if what you're asking me is in the hibiscus family, then yes, it may be related. All right, so we've got some amazing bees hanging out here. I'm just hoping they don't get in my face because I'd rather not get stung while I'm chatting with you live. So if you want to grow it indoors, that is another question I was asked. Can I grow it indoors? Or, hey, it's not giving me flowers soon enough for my frost date. Can I bring it inside? Absolutely yes. However, again, as I mentioned, you will need light. It likes 13 hours of light if you're doing it indoors. And it needs a good quality, either a fluorescent or a LED, one that's going to give you a good light source. And remember, these are 5 to 6 feet tall. You can top them. So that's another question. Well, how do I get these things from not being so tall that I can't reach them? I'm 5'3", so I probably can't reach all the way up. Did you see that buzz in front of the camera? That was our friendly honeybee right here hanging out with us. So I can't reach 6 feet tall, but I'll probably get my step ladder out and I'll pull it up here. Now, not all of my roselles are ready to harvest yet, which is kind of a bummer. I'm not going to harvest today, but I did harvest a small bowl just to show you. I'm doing most of my harvest on Friday, tomorrow. How beautiful is that? They really are a beautiful plant. Now, let me tell you how awesome it is as far as eating this plant. You can actually eat the leaves, and you can eat, hey Christian, thanks for joining us. You can eat the leaves and you can eat the flowers. So this plant is pretty awesome. Inga says it makes an amazing cranberry sauce. Oh, good to know. And again, it's called Florida cranberry. So it does give you a nice little zing. It's a wonderful flavor, and the leaves are edible, so that can give you a little bit of a crunch as well. So I mentioned earlier, and I want to kind of circle back to it. As far as the harvesting, the flowers tend to appear in September and October as the days start to shorten. So that is something that's kind of important to remember. I'm going to go back onto that right now. So it's time to harvest generally when your pointy flowers, your pointy buds are about an inch wide. So let me go like this so you can see it a little better. Looks like Roselle, hibiscus, saffrondia, and Confederate rose. Okay. So they are different, it looks like, but similar. So there's a lot of different varieties, and we've got 800 just of heirloom seeds. So I try to know a little bit more about plants, but there's only so much I can fit in my head. All right, so here is what it looks like from the side. So this is a good time to harvest. I have one that's slightly bigger. I'm gonna grab that too so you can see it. There you go. All right, so you can harvest the flowers, and you can dry them, and you can make a tea out of them. You can harvest them fresh, and you can eat them fresh. Just pop it in your mouth and eat it. The seeds you can collect, and they're actually edible. So the seeds can be used. You can dry them. You can roast them. You can use them as a coffee substitute if you dry and roast them, and then you just kind of crush them into a powder and use that as like a coffee. Or you can just sprinkle it on your salad, add it to a meal, and it is a good source of protein from what I read. So that's kind of cool too. So you can eat the flowers, you can eat the leaves, you can eat the seeds. You can also eat just the sprouts. So if you got a lot of seeds, or maybe you want to thin your plants, you can eat the sprouts kind of like a microgreen as well. All right, so I already mentioned flowers usually appear in September and October, and that's generally as the time changes, as the daylight changes. You can see it's a little lighter during the daytime, and then it is not as light now. So if you watch some of my other videos, it's like blasting light out here in July and August. But now we're in November, and it's getting darker later. So my beautiful plant is starting to produce flowers for me. And they're gorgeous, by the way. So I'm going to show you here a little bit. If you look in the video and you look at the main picture of the video, these two beautiful flowers are the picture that you see that I edited so you can see it. And they're kind of shriveled up now, but that's what happens. So let me pull you in a little closer and you can see what it looks like. Oh, there it is. There you go. See that? So they start to close up at night. And generally, you're going to start harvesting these when about 5 to 8 days after they bloom for the first time. You can harvest it a little sooner, but that's when it's most mature. And if you leave it on the plant for a little bit longer, obviously, sorry, I'm fixing my camera here. Obviously, they will be a little more tough, but the seeds will be more mature if you want to save the seeds. So you can harvest them early to promote greater yields. That's one thing that I have done already. I've harvested some really small ones, not the big ones, and I dehydrated them. I'm going to use it for tea because I love hibiscus tea. You can also, as I mentioned, pick the leaves when they're younger. And then you can start dehydrating right away. You can freeze them if you want. And I will say this, some of these leaves you can see are kind of beat up. So if you're not familiar with Texas weather, we had a freeze in October, and I wasn't sure if this plant was going to make it. It's pretty hardy, but I did lose a couple of the top branches. I got a bug circling around me. I did lose a couple of the top branches, just a couple of the top piece of the shoot, because we had, I think it got down to 32. That's pretty cold. I lost a couple squash, but mostly the tomatoes are doing well. The peppers are doing really well. And so this is what happened when we had a freeze. Some of those leaves just got frozen, but the plant made it. So super excited about that. And I mentioned earlier, we are headed for another frost. It's supposed to be really cold on Saturday. I think it's 29 degrees is our low. So we are finally hitting our frost dates here. Today is the 10th, and my projected first frost date is the 13th, which coming up soon. It was supposed to be the 15th last year, and our actual frost was the 22nd. So it's about on time this year. So, oh well. I might lose a couple things, I might not. Christian asked if I add blankets to them. No, there are some plants that I cover when we do have a frost. Sometimes I'll put sheets around the tomato cages or the pepper plants. So I've got some wire along some of these fences, which makes it really easy to take a sheet and drape it over it so we don't get too much damage. But I tend to not do the sheets on everything because there's too much to put sheets on, to be honest. So I will save the different plants that I'm growing specifically for seeds if I want to continue harvesting seeds from those plants in particular. I'm looking at over here at a bed full of datil peppers, and right now I'm very limited on how many seeds I have for the year, and I've got bushes full of peppers, and I'm looking at them and they're just now starting to turn orange. So I'm definitely going to cover those plants so I don't lose them because I really want those seeds. And now I think that is it. But I didn't mention all the ways you can eat them, so I will share that now. Alan says they use bed sheets here in Houston. Yep, we do that too. Just the flat sheets. Well, you can use any sheet really, but sheets really help. Blankets not so much because they're kind of too heavy. So just to recap, we're talking about Thai Roselle. In the description section of this video, you'll find links to my comprehensive planting guide, the how to grow Thai Roselle from seed to harvest, and the email sign up for my e-newsletter I send out once a week. The upcoming announcement will be our new arrivals for 2023. It'll be the second installment, and that will bring us up to, I think, 50 new arrivals for 2023. So that'll put us well over 850 varieties that we will be able to offer to you awesome people for 2023. Let's see. Cindy says, woohoo. I'm pretty excited about it myself. Oh, peppers. I know, David, you've still got peppers growing at your place, and I'm not sure how cold it is where you are, or if you've got a greenhouse, but it's definitely about to get pretty cold here. So, like I said, 29. But it's crazy because it's 80 degrees today, and then it's going to be 60 in a couple days, and fingers crossed we get some rain tomorrow. So from seed to harvest, we typically plant out our Thai Roselles after our last frost, and we typically get producing flowers in September and October. So here we are in November, and I'm just finally getting the video because I was about to do the video and we had a freeze date, and my plant looked a little sad at that time. The only real pests I've found for this are sometimes aphids and sometimes cucumber beetles. I did not have issues with the cucumber beetles or aphids this year, but we did have grasshoppers kind of nibble on the leaves, but it didn't stop them from producing, so that was a huge plus. If I did have any kind of aphids, I would have just give it a good hard blast with some water to get those aphids off. I really prefer doing that over using a spray of any kind. Hey Rosalind, thanks for joining us. So if you missed the video or you missed any of our last live videos, you can always check back and watch the replays. I will try to get a couple more tutorials coming up. I realize that I have not done a lot of tutorials lately that haven't been live because moving to a new homestead, starting a garden from scratch, and running the seed business and expanding our seed shop has been a lot on my plate. So now that we've got some extra help in the seed shop, I'll be able to film some outside in the garden videos that you guys can enjoy that aren't a long, drawn out chatting. If you don't like the chats, that's totally fine. You can watch some of my tutorials that aren't chats. I enjoy going live and chatting with you guys because it's fun and I just get to sit here and talk to y'all and see what's going on in your gardens. David said it's cold where you are too. It says been down 45 to 70 degrees and you have one plant left in the greenhouse. Awesome. So the greenhouse is next on my list of things to add to our homestead this winter to get me prepared for my next season of growing. If you've got any questions, maybe I didn't answer your question tonight, or maybe you watch the video and you go, oh, I got to ask a different question, or maybe it's not related to Ty Roselle and you want to ask it anyway. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. I'm happy to answer your questions. If I don't get back to you, or if you don't see my email, please check your spam folder because there have been plenty of times where a customer says, gosh, Mary, I sent you an email like 2 weeks ago and you never responded. And I say, please check your spam folder, and it's usually there because I do try to get back to you. That is it for me. I have an interview. I already did it last week, and it'll be live this Saturday for Small Business Saturday interviews at KNC Worm Farm on Facebook. Cindy says it will be 50 degrees. No, not 19 degrees. I'm sorry, I must be blind. 19 degrees. That's crazy. 29 is cold enough for me. 19 is crazy. Sorry, that's mosquito. All right, guys, I'm done for the day. I'm getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. I'm trying not to get them to get my face. That is it. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, signing off, and happy planting.